Patrick, and this is Just Got Played. I'm here with Eric, E-Rock, Steven, and Lloyd. And tonight we're talking about something kind of special. It's a current event show. In other words, it's our favorite game that we played in the last 2 months. So I'd like to start off with Mr. Steven Eckman. Steven, can you tell us the game that you like the most that you played in the last 2 months?
Well, this was actually a hard choice for me. I had a couple to choose from, but I went with Kohaku. So Kohaku, I got the fancy Kickstarter version with the acrylic tiles, which is really neat, but they're making a new version with the cardboard tiles. And so it's a game where you're drafting fish and features and building your own little koi pond. And so every round you have to take a fish and a feature that's next to each other, and those things sort of score off of each other. So you've got a little bit of a set collection element, because if you get a feature that says I'm going to score a bunch of points for putting red fish in a line or in a certain area or something like that, now you're going to want to collect red fish. But the fish tiles also have little baby fish on them. They have coins that can score extra points. They have dragonflies that can score extra points. And it's a beautiful game, right? And it's a little bit of a sort of multiplayer solitaire. I mean, you could, I suppose, hate draft your opponent if you wanted to, but in general, that's not the best strategy in this game. So it's just sort of, because it's not you don't play it that way. It's sort of peaceful. You're just building your own koi pond. You're getting the fish that you want. You're getting the features that you want. And at the end, you just, you score all those different features based on what's in your pond. So I've played this several times now with other people. I took it by request to Escape WinterCon. Somebody asked if anybody local had the game and could bring it so we could play it. And everybody that I play it with just really enjoys it. I don't think anybody's going to say, oh, that's my favorite game of all time, but everybody enjoys that it doesn't take very long and the experience is just, relaxing and fun little puzzle building. So I think that has affected why I chose this as my favorite game I've played over the last couple months, is sort of the joy that other people that I've showed it to have experienced it. That sort of elevates it for me too.
Yeah, I'm sure that elevates it hopefully for everybody. We reviewed this game when it first went on Kickstarter, right before it first went on Kickstarter. We got the cardboard version of it, but even that one, the artwork was really, really nice. And I did get that sense of relaxation. Do you remember a game many, many years ago, I believe it's out of print, called Lanterns? I
do, but I never played it.
Well, I have it. We should play it. It had a very similar feel to me. And I think I got that same kind of satisfaction, or at least a lot of other people at least get that same kind of satisfaction out of that Stonemaier bird game.
Oh, that game?
Wingspan.
Never heard of that one.
Wingspan? Yeah, it's like Wingspawn.
Yeah, they sold like 10 or 20 copies of that, maybe? I don't know.
I think they sold more than that, Steven.
15.
E-Rock, I'm jumping over to you.
Hello. So I'm going exactly the opposite way. Steve is all about nice and relaxing and make your koi pond. No, I'm talking about Betrayal Legacy. This was, I'm sure every one of us is going to say this, but this was a really hard choice for me also. We played some really good games in the last few months. But we just started this just the other day. A brand new campaign we never played before. It's a lot of fun. It's not at all relaxing. The general gist of this game is we're all kind of wandering around this house and the grounds and finding things and stuff. And then at some point, somebody triggers the haunt. And at that point, everything changes. It's no longer just walking around and finding stuff. Now, one of us is trying to kill the rest of us, or something like that. I don't want to talk too much about it because this is a legacy game and there would be spoilers, but that's the general idea of what's going on.
It literally has betrayal in the title.
It has betrayal in the title, yes. I mean, it's just like two levels of this game. There's that whole first part where you're just kind of like, all right, what's going on? Let's wander around. What did I find? What's this? And then, boom, like that, everything changes. Now it's a run for your life. Try to save yourself, or maybe you're the bad guy. You want to kill everybody. But we had a lot of fun. We played so far just the prologue and the first chapter. They were both awesome. Everybody at the table, we played with a full complement of 5. Everybody at the table was like, that was so much fun. And yeah, there's a lot of games that I love personally, but I'm kind of with Steve where the best experiences beat the best games. And I just feel the same. If you're at a table and everybody's like, that was so much fun, then that increases it for me also, because that's a shared experience that you're always going to remember.
That's awesome. And I think that made our top 10 list for favorite Halloween spooky games, right?
I didn't make that list, so I'm trying to edge in.
It's interesting. I just saw an interview today with Matt Leacock and Rob Davio talking about Legacy and the progression of that, and what the world of Legacy is becoming, or actually if it's starting to die off. It was really an interesting view. I wish I might dig it up and then put this in the notes, in the liner notes somewhere, so everyone else can see that episode. Eric Little, if you turn on your microphone, you could tell us what favorite game you had in the last 2 months.
So, just like Erock said, I have played probably not nearly as many games as he had, but a bunch of games in the last few months that I've been excited about. And this is one of those that also kind of fit that same kind of vibe that we're going for. You know, there were definitely several games that I was excited about, but there were more things that I was personally excited about. This was one of those that kind of stuck with me, and I immediately thought, you know, this would be good for all sorts of different people. I'd be excited to teach it to all kinds of gamers, newer gamers, more experienced gamers, and that is Ankh, Gods of Egypt. I played it at a friend's house, and he'd gotten his Kickstarter version of it, and it kind of sat in my brain for like a week after. And that's generally kind of my purchasing thought process anymore, is that you know, I can play a game and usually be excited about it, but then if I've already forgotten about it by Tuesday, you know, it's usually something that I don't have to pick up for myself. It's one of those games that I kept thinking about, but I really like kind of, I can't say I like dudes on a map games, but I like dudes on a map area control games. And this one, you know, I guess for reference, I owned Innis. I like Innis a lot. This game I think is excellent and on par with that one. And honestly, it would be easier to teach people than Innis, because I think Innis, the scoring and understanding how the game ends is a little less obvious, or a little easy, you know, a little harder to wrap your brain around. This one, I loved how simple the action selection was. There's this track that has these little markers on 4 different tracks, and you get to pick 2 of them. You either move, you add new dudes to the map, you get followers, which is just a currency in the game, or you get to upgrade your god's kind of powers. And there is an order in which that you have to choose them. So like you can't pick one that happened higher on the track, but you know, I think it adds this really cool spatial element to your choices. And I liked that the game is asymmetric without being super unbalanced. The gods are, you know, they play uniquely. I think they're interesting, but ultimately they aren't fiddly. And I don't know. I think another thing worth mentioning is that I was not super excited when it got pulled out to the table, because I wasn't a fan of Blood Rage and I haven't played Rising Sun. And this one I was very pleasantly surprised, and it looks so cool. I mean, I mean, it is cool mini or not, and the minis are, I mean, like they're massive, and they tower on the table, and honestly, like, and they're so cool and so well detailed that I wouldn't even be interested in having them painted. I like them as is, and they're kind of neat colors too. So, I mean, that's the one I was most excited about in the last couple months.
I'm kind of curious. You say you weren't that big of a fan of Blood Rage. What was it? I mean, I'm not trying to say you're wrong.
Well,
I'm just wondering what it was.
He could have been a victim of circumstance.
Maybe.
I won, and I didn't particularly like it. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was a decent game, but we started it at like 1 a.m. with someone who will not be mentioned, who is horrible AP, like the worst AP ever. So the game lasted until 5 a.m. And at that point, you kind of weigh it out and go, man, I really would like to get a couple hours sleep. And the game's good, but it's not good enough to stay awake for 5 hours, 4 hours playing the damn game. So I think Eric and I have faced a slight disadvantage at the only time I've ever played Blood Rage. Would you consider that to be fair, Eric?
I mean, that is a fair assumption, but I will also say that it failed that litmus test for me where, by Tuesday I'd already kind of forgotten about it. It didn't hang in my head. There was nothing about it that excited me and made me want to go back and try again and see if it would be different. Back another thing too. And I know just about Ankh in general. There is this divisive merging thing that happens in it. And I've gotten to play it 2-player and I've gotten to play it 3-player now. And the merging thing is, I don't know. I think the people are making too big of a deal out of it. But I will say I liked it better as a 2-player game. It is a phenomenal 2-player game.
But it doesn't actually have the merge of 2 players, right?
Exactly.
What is the merging thing? I have no idea.
So essentially at a kind of a predetermined point in the game, once a certain number of events have happened, the last 2 players are forced to become 1 player and they have to work together. But the benefit of doing that is it gives them more control over when the events happen, because essentially the events happen as you're picking actions on that action track I was talking about. And if you pick the last action on that track, it causes an event to trigger. By having 2 players control 1 character on the board, it ends up being they're allowed to take the same action back to back essentially, and it allows them to have a lot more control over when events occur.
Wow, a semi-co-op area control game.
Yeah, the semi-co-op is it's weird.
So they really basically have to work together, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I will say my criticism of that is that it made combat weird because you have to make choices in combat depending on what cards you use, and that was one of those where you're almost playing kind of like rock paper scissors with the other person, and then you kind of have to like whisper to each other like totally don't let him hear it. Like
you could just do it like Rebellion and all those games do. We're like, all right, you're in charge of the map, you're in charge of the military.
Well, and that's what I saw happen essentially is, because it was my wife and our friend ended up having the merge, and she just
made them merge.
Yep.
Yes.
She ended up letting him control combat just because he had gotten a lot more experience in combat that game than she did. So,
well, I'm going to go next and leave Lloyd the very best for last. I haven't played that many games in the last 2 months, to be honest with you. I've been traveling a lot. My life sucks. I live far away from many, many people. So I kind of have to really work to get a game to the table. I played about 3 games in the last 2 months, and this really wasn't super, and I liked them all, but this wasn't super, super hard for me to choose. H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. This game is remarkably good, especially at higher player counts, when you can actually play the murder. One of you is the murderer, as opposed to it just being AI. It's very Halloween-y themed. Did I say Halloween? It's very Halloween themed. It's a little bit edgy because you know that there's a serial killer and you're trying to avoid traps, and there's blood footprints everywhere, and the art is fantastic, and it comes with minis. It's just a really fun, fairly light game, even though it plays up to 9 people. But I'm going to say H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle.
I watched your review of that, so I know that you liked it a lot. I didn't know that it carried over this far, so that's interesting.
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't played that many games in the last 2 months. I do like this game, but it's a little more thematic than No Thanks or some of the other games that I play. Not that I don't like all those games, I really do. But this one I lean more towards, at least in the last 2 months.
Yeah, surprise! This video is actually an intervention. We feel you're not playing enough games.
Thank you. So
what I want to know is,
here.
why would you stay there? Why would you stay there? There's blood footprints everywhere. There's death traps. You're like, where's my room? Maybe my kid.
Well, technically, you're an employee. Like you worked on the house, and you're scared of becoming an accomplice. So you're trying to collect evidence against H.H. Holmes, who's figured out. He's figured out that you're trying to collect evidence against him, and he's trying to stop you.
I've stayed in some hotels like that. Like, you go to look in the shower in the morning, like, no, we're just gonna go. We're not showering. Just leave.
Yeah.
That somebody died in there.
Oh, if those hotels weren't the by the hour ones, though, right? Because those
No.
no. Mr. Lloyd, will you please tell us? Will you please tell us what your favorite? And I'm anxiously anticipating this because I know you were in a heavy debate in your own head about what you wanted to pick. So, would you please tell us what
I still am.
The clock has run out. Make your choice.
Oh, I have to choose.
You must choose.
So I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I haven't played that many games. I played more. I haven't played that many games that I've liked. And I've actually played a game that I did like, and now I'm not so high on it anymore because we kind of ground it into the dirt, and it's probably gonna be a while before I go back to it. So I was choosing between Alien: Fate of the Nostromo and Guildmaster, and I think I'm gonna go with Guildmaster, just because I only played Alien by myself, which is a big part of my gaming is solo gaming now, because I'm kind of like you. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I don't get to game that often. So I have a lot of solo games. And this was one that I played with a group, and I had a good time with it. So in Guildmaster, you are essentially in control of a guild, and you are trying to get points by completing quests and recruiting new heroes, and each guild kind of has a different there's different icons that kind of equate with different power sets in the game. So I think there's like 8 in the game, and depending on how many players you have, you're gonna deal out a random amount of those, and so you'll get kind of a mix between 2 of the different like power sets, the houses or whatever, and those kind of dictate your starting heroes that you're going to start with. And what you're trying to do is secretly plan out your turns by assigning your heroes or adventurers, whatever you want to call them, to different areas on the board. So there's a spot to go on quests. There's a spot to get more heroes. There's a spot to upgrade your buildings. There's you have like private quests you can do in your hand. And whenever you place out your heroes, you put an order number with them. So you and somebody else might want to go and recruit someone. But whoever put it down as their first order in an order, so we all do our first order, then we all do our second order. I might go and get the guy that you wanted because I decided I wanted to go draft from the B draft spot, but I did it in turn 1 and you did it in turn 2. So you have to kind of plan out what you think other people are going to do. So for someone who we won't talk about that might have a lot of AP issues, this might grind them to a halt trying to decipher their turn while also figuring out what everyone else is going to do. And you do this all on secret. You have a little screen that you put your cards down. So you have to, pick your people where you want them to go. And there's a dice-based element to it. So whenever you go to complete quests, you'll have to, you get an amount of dice based on how many symbols you have on your heroes. So you want to keep getting better and better heroes. so you get to roll more dice. And that's kind of where your like house emblems, I don't remember what they're called, but that's where those kind of come into play. Because I'll be better at doing like magic quests than strength quests. So my heroes will be more geared towards magic, but you can go over and get other heroes that will give you dice for those types of skills. And the game goes on over 9 rounds, or you can play like a shortened 6-round one. And there's powers that activate on different turns. And there is some take that in it. Some of the characters actually like steal from everybody at the beginning of the turn. And everyone's like, why are you stealing from me again? Like, well, because I played this guy and he happens every single time as long as the moon is out. So every other turn, I'm going to steal from you. Just get used to it. So everybody kind of has, but it's evenly spaced out. Everyone's got somebody that does something similar in their little starter power set. So I'm going to go with Guildmaster just because there's a lot of different things you can do. And if you do get beat out on one of those different areas, you can try to do one of the private quests in your hand, or you can go wandering, and wandering kind of sucks. It's just roll some dice and collect resources based off what you got on the dice roll, which is kind of the worst thing you can do by allocating your guys. But it's better than nothing, I guess.
So you would rather in a solo game have a private quest in your hand rather than wandering?
Yeah. So when you get dealt out the quests, you can they're random. So you might have 2 quests in your hand that you really can't do. Like I've got 2 strength quests and I can't do it. At the beginning of the game, I think you get 3 or 4 dealt out to you and you get to choose X amount of them and toss the other ones back. But then after that, when you're getting quests, you're just drawing off the deck and you could just get a bunch of quests you can't do, or you could just have really bad rolls every turn. So even though I'm really good at magic, I keep rolling 1s, which doesn't do anything for me. So, but yes, wandering is like the bottom of the totem pole in terms of resource allocation. I've got a team of 3 people that I was going after this big quest that somebody else beat me to. And so now these guys are going to go wander in the woods and try to find some coins. So it's kind of the worst possible thing, but you can at least get something. You're not completely out.
Do they do it in a mopey way? Like, oh man, somebody got our thing.
There was a lot of not moping. There was a lot of like cussing whenever that happened. Like, son of a foul! You took what I wanted. Oh, now I have to go wandering because I don't have any quests. And oh, great, I got 2 coins. Ugh.
That game.
I spent 4 guys on that, and I got 2 coins. So there was no moping. People were pretty angry.
What did you say, Yurok?
I don't at this point don't remember. Please proceed.
Well, I think that's it. I think we've done the show. So you've gotten to listen to everything that we have played in the last couple of months, or at least the favorite thing that we played in the last couple of months. So in the comments below, after you smash subscribe and thumbs up, I would love you to tell me what you have recently played and which games you like the most that you've recently played. I'm Patrick. That's Eric, E-Rock, Steven, and Lloyd. We're Just Got Played. Thank you very much for joining our current event show.